Well, hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Social. My name is Chris Salas. I am Associate Professor of Social Work here at El Paso Community College. Today we get to continue the conversation on the Center of Hope with our guest, the Executive Director of the Center of Hope, Ms. Nicole Schiff. Welcome again, Nicole, and thank you for agreeing to continue the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it, and just really happy to be able to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, most definitely. I really appreciate you laying down a great foundation on our first episode, right? Talking about really the facts about human trafficking, right? We really touched on a lot of the misconceptions, a lot of the errors that might be present, the difference between human trafficking and human smuggling, and even talking about sex labor or sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and then even child exploitation, right? That's where we left off in our last episode. So again, I really appreciate you setting the record clear per se. But now I really want to concentrate on what you all do, right? The work down in the trenches that you and your team has done. And so let's start off with, how has the Center of Hope changed in the last couple of years? Because we were having this conversation earlier about how you guys started off with a small staff, and now you're looking at even opening up a second location. So tell us about the transformation that the Center of Hope itself has gone through in the last couple of years.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to be able to have or see so much growth. When I started in July of 2020, there was 5 of us total, myself included. So we had 2 case managers, an outreach person, and a youth development person working with youth specifically in the schools. And now, fast forward 4 years, and we're at 13 staff, looking to hire a few more in the coming months, thanks to programming and grant funding. And then, yes, when I started, we had a 1-bedroom shelter for victims, and we all shared office space in a living room in a house. Wow. We now have a separate space just for office, so a location where the public can visit, can come drop off donations and see us, where previously when we were working out of the shelter, it was undisclosed to the public, right, which really, I think, kind of hurt us in some ways in terms of people knowing who we were and where we are, because that level of branding, like, oh, there's their office, there's their logo. And so we decided to split it out about 2.5 years ago. We have an office space now and an emergency shelter that's separate. And it went from a 1-bedroom shelter with 1 bathroom and 2 beds. Now there's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. We can house a number of people more than what we had previously. So we're really grateful for that growth. Our budget has more than tripled thanks to grant funding and donors and fundraising. So it's been helpful.
I bet, and that takes a lot of work from the administration, from your whole team as a whole, right? Having served in various boards and organizations across the city, that doesn't happen overnight, right? You definitely, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that has to happen, and I'll say unfortunately, but growth also comes because of need.
Yes.
Right. So it's great that the Center of Hope and other agencies across town are growing, are expanding. But that also means that there's definitely a need for the services that are being provided by these agencies, right? So tell us a little bit about what services the Center of Hope provides.
So we provide our number 1 program, our biggest program, is the direct service side of the work, meaning we provide services to any victim identified, male, female, youth, doesn't matter how they identify, migrant, citizen. We provide that direct service to them, meaning case management and advocacy. So as soon as we are given the referral and we set up an intake, we then walk through the process with them in terms of what we can offer. But we look to them. What do they need? Some of them come to us with just the clothing they're wearing. Others, they're living at home, they have a family, they have their parents, and it's more like the emotional support or the therapy piece. It's not so much the emergency shelter or the housing. Right. So we meet them where they are. That's what our team specializes in, is meeting each individual where they are in their journey and letting them lead us. So it's very patient-centered, client-centered, trauma-informed is our goal always. because we never want to elicit or put that type of control on them the way that potentially their trafficker or their exploiter did.
Right.
So we want to make sure that they have every bit of choice as much as we can. So direct services with our case managers, that can look like a weekly meeting, twice a week. A case manager might spend an entire day with a victim, depending on the situation. We will accompany them to law enforcement interviews, SANE exams at the hospital. They need to go to the ER. Mental health services, we make sure that they're referred immediately to one of our vetted partners for therapy. But we were lucky enough actually to bring on a full-time therapist this year on our staff. You might remember from the Guidance Center, Monica Garfias. She's our therapist. And so it's because we identify, like, they can't be on a wait list. They just, they need services immediately. So we realized that therapy was one of the most important pieces. I'm sure you can respect that as a social worker.
Definitely, yes, ma'am.
So we try to fill in those gaps where there maybe is a lack of services, or there's such a need that the city can't meet the need. So yeah, so therapy, referrals for medical services, you name it. Basically, if a client says they need something, we're going to figure out how to make it happen. We also play that victim services side for law enforcement. So when law enforcement identifies a victim, we will get called out, or we'll get a heads up, hey, we're doing an op. We might be identifying victims that night or that day. Can you be on standby, or can you come on site at this time? And that's for the massage parlors, hotels. We've been called out for hotel ops, massage parlors. We've been called out to the schools when youth make outcries. It really depends on the situation. And then we're a local partner for the National Human Trafficking Hotline. So when they identify somebody that makes a call that needs immediate assistance and is in one of our zip codes, then they'll also reach out to us directly and connect us with the victim or the victim's family immediately. And that's 24/7, 7 days a week.
Yeah, so it's definitely not your typical 8 to 9 or 8 to 5 business hours.
No.
Right? And so you started the conversation with when you received the referrals, right? So who would be where would a typical referral come from, or where there's we talked in the first half in our first episode about if you see something, say something, right? Mm-hmm. So where do your referrals typically come from?
Great question. One of the biggest sources is juvenile probation, JPD. The reason being is they screen. There's a screening tool that any youth serving agency can use and implement. We're lucky enough that JPD did that back in 2019. So they now screen the youth, every youth that comes in, they screen them with the tool to identify whether or not they're either at risk of being trafficked or exploited, or are actively being trafficked and exploited. That's a score that ranges from a 4 to a 24, and the higher the score, the more likely that something's going on or that they're at risk. We get weekly referrals from juvenile probation. At this point, I think daily referrals. So that's our biggest referral source. But we get them from our nonprofit partners. We get them from the hospitals, the school districts. We can accept a referral from anyone. So even sometimes now, just through awareness, victims themselves have been reaching out and saying, I saw your advertisements or your website and I need assistance. It's not as common because a lot of people don't identify as the typical victim or think that that they need services. Mm-hmm. So there's that option. But yeah, it can come pretty much from anywhere. But a lot of what we see is through law enforcement and through juvenile probation is where the majority have come from.
Got you. Again, just to clarify and make sure everybody's on the same page, when we talk about case management, right? What does that typically look like? Because you said that there's a lot of times, we also need to recognize that we can't do all the work by ourselves, right? And so it sounds like you guys have a great network of partners throughout the community, mm-hmm. right? That will help in achieving the mission, right? And so what are some, other than the direct service that you provide, the case management, now that you have a provider, a mental health therapist on mm-hmm. staff, but what might be some of the other things that are part of, let me rephrase that, what is case management to start off with, right? Okay. And then what are some of the other services that your agency or that the Center of Hope could potentially refer someone out to?
Yeah, great question. So we realize we can't do it all in-house. as much as we might like to, it might make things a little easier. We can't do it in-house, everything. So we refer out for housing assistance, for rapid rehousing, emergency shelter if our shelter is not available. We refer out for additional mental health because our therapists certainly can't, see everybody. And so we rely on our partners pretty heavily for that. For food insecurities, the food bank is a partner of ours. Even recently, financial literacy. So getting classes from one of our local credit unions here in town. One of our board members connected us, so we can now refer our clients that are in a place where they're ready to start, rebuilding their lives. They might be 18 or 19 and they don't know how to handle money.
Right.
So we refer them out for that. There's just so many different service options, but basically we try to learn about all of our partners in the community, understand what each is doing. We also assist them with job placement, resume building. So we'll work a lot with the workforce development or Borderplex to make sure that if the individual's ready to go into job placement, that we can refer them to them for that help. And then same with schools. We've had some of our clients enroll in EPCC, UTEP. They maybe needed their GED, so we'll either assist or we'll look for somebody else to help out with that as well.
That's awesome. And I mean, again, I got thrown in the professor side of things, right? That one of the things that I teach my students is really knowing your community, right? And it's something that, it's paying off obviously for the people that you're helping, because knowing the resources that are available, that are already in place, right? There's no need to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
And so knowing the resources that are available, knowing who to contact, building those networks with people, sounds like it's paramount to helping you all achieve your mission.
Yeah. We do also run the local anti-trafficking coalition. Originally back in 2017, it was through the FBI. They had lost funding from a grant, so it was just going to dissolve, but the Center of Hope didn't want to lose that community of partners that are doing this work or have some involvement. So they took over. And so it's a monthly meeting. Right now it's still virtual, actually, just because we've built a lot of state partners. Right. We don't want to lose them. But it's a network of people. There's about 120 people on the listserv representing about 45 agencies. Anything from healthcare, law enforcement, the county attorney's office, they sit on the call. The governor's office, our West Texas director from the governor's office is on the call. Other nonprofit agencies. We also look to bring in our partner agencies to present to the coalition. So yeah, that I think really helps in terms of, like you said, building that network of people. We say to prevent trafficking and to support victims of trafficking, it takes a village. It takes all of us. Right. And so that's a really big piece for us, is building those relationships with our community partners.
And another piece of that will also be bringing awareness to the community, right? That these are things that definitely affect the community, that are here, that and that we need to be, like we talked about in the previous episode, be vigilant about, right? Yeah. And so it's a great transition piece to what I would like to talk about next, which is we've built this foundation of the great work that you all do, the coalition, the like you said, the village that you've created. But what are some of the challenges that are faced by your agency and maybe even the coalition in achieving this goal?
That's, I think right now my favorite question and the hardest question. It's twofold. So we're seeing a lot of our partners, unfortunately, that aren't trained the way that we are to understand the population. So we try really hard to vet who we refer our clients to, who we're working with, because if you don't understand the complexities of a victim of trafficking, it can be very easy to re-traumatize them or to trigger them. And so sometimes the systems that are in place, whether it's CPS or foster care, or even signing them up for, for food benefits, it can be very triggering for them because of the individuals working there not understanding what they've gone through and how to talk about it with them. So that's why we push really hard around training. We can offer free training and education services to any of our partners, anybody in the community that wants to learn about it or understand it more. So we train with Texas Tech, the nurses and doctors at the different hospitals, as much as we can, all of our partners, because we see this misconception or lack of understanding. Right. And sometimes the victim is blamed almost for, well, you got yourself into it or you chose that life. And so it's really hard for us to make sure to be mindful of like who we're referring to. And we push really hard to please, get educated on this topic if you're going to engage with the clients that we serve. So there's that piece. And then also that idea of we can't do it all ourselves. We have to rely on others. But we have identified some gaps in our community in terms of housing support. There's a lot of money coming from the federal, state, local government for 18 to 24-year-olds, youth aging out of the foster care systems, right. Which is so important. I would never take away from that.
Right.
But what happens to the youth on either end of that? A 16-year-old that's run away because they just don't want to be in the foster care system, or a 28-year-old victim who has 2 little kids. Where do we put them? You know what I mean? They don't fall in that age range. So we've seen a lot of money for veterans, of course. Again, I'm a military brat by nature, and so I would never take away from the veterans either. But if you're not a veteran, you don't identify as a veteran, and you're not in the 18 to 24-year-old category, where should you live then? Mm-hmm. So there's been this big question, and we've had so many clients that are either in a shelter, in an emergency shelter, a housing shelter, and then there's sometimes restrictions. Okay, they can be here 30 days. Well, if we don't have rapid rehousing or a place for them to go or funding, they will be on the street. And putting a trafficking victim on the street is only asking for more trouble, or relapse if drugs were involved, more mental health, trauma.
Just putting a Band-Aid on the issue.
Yeah, so our goal is never to let somebody end up back out on the street. But we have pulled at so many partners and, questioned, talked to the housing authority, all these different places, and it's like, the answer is just, that's what we have. That's what we have available right now. So that's where we're struggling. We've recently developed the Restoring Hope Fund.
Okay.
It was based on a model that one of our national partners started, where we're basically just looking for donors. We're going to create an endowment through the community foundation, the PDN Community Foundation, where donors can sponsor our clients. They can sponsor families with monetary donations. If we want to place somebody in an apartment for 12 months to help them get stable, a donor could help us offset that cost of rent or utilities in the event that the community is out of money, out of housing money. So this fund would be used to meet those needs. We try really hard to write for grant money and to bring in funding, but there's just such a gap right now in housing.
Excellent. And just, an endowment, people, this isn't your GoFundMe account where people take a certain amount. This is money that is solely for that purpose, right? Yeah. It's not going to be, not for the sake of misappropriation, right? We don't want to throw that word around, but this money is solely going to be used for that purpose, right? And it can only grow, right?
Exactly.
It's and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the purpose of an endowment is the money sits there, it's invested, and it grows, right, according to what the market is doing. Right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
What are you guys doing currently that will help grow that fund, or that as a Kickstarter, or to get that going?
So we've been really honing in and focusing on certain community partners, having conversations with donors. The Health Foundation has been wonderful, and the Community Foundation, in trying to connect us with people that maybe their focus is children, or their focus is the homeless, and so that they can understand our services and what we offer, and then be able, if they have a donor advised fund, it makes it easy for them to be able to transfer or donate from their fund to ours. So we also are having a masquerade ball in June. And so the goal each year of the masquerade is to now bring in money that will go into that endowment, like you said, to help it grow and to just keep building on it. So the first year, the goal is $150,000 to raise. But yeah, people can, here's $10,000, I want it to go to this family or this situation. And we'll make sure that that's where the focus goes. But it would be a part of the Restoring Hope Fund, and just bringing hope to survivors, making sure that there's not a barrier for them.
What other ways would you suggest to the community that they can provide assistance to helping you all fulfill your mission?
Awareness, bringing in asking us to come in for a presentation, getting a group of people together, whether it's an office, a classroom, a church, hosting us just for an hour for training to bring awareness. Donation drives. We love donation drives. We have a Walmart registry on our website where people can go right to Walmart and shop online and have it shipped directly to us. That makes a huge difference. Technology, yeah, is our friend sometimes, unless we're talking about exploitation.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So recently we had a donor, they had an extra $1,000, I guess, in their budget. They said, what do you need? So they went to our registry and we got Walmart packages.
Wow.
Like it looked like Christmas in there because Walmart was shipping them like one at a time. And so like one package had socks in it and, packages were coming in all week and our staff was just like, this is great, because to them it makes their job easier too if a client needs undergarments or clean socks, they can just go to our inventory and get it. And we're not having to use grant money or donation money to go buy paper towels or socks for a client.
Right.
Because when we place them in housing, they don't have furniture. The apartments, the houses are usually empty. So we're trying to help fully furnish, get them dishes, whatever you would think that you need in your house, that's what they need too. So the more we can get in terms of donations from our community, not just monetary, the better off we'll be. So we even see where students, high schoolers, college kids will take up a class donation.
Yeah.
Gift cards are great because that gives the client, the victim, choice. We can give them, a Walmart gift card and they can go purchase things for themselves where they might not have had that opportunity before because they were under so much control. So we love gift cards.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What would be on your wish list, right? So you have the registry on Walmart, but if people have, if they would like to give a donation, is first and foremost, what is on your wish list and where can people drop that off?
So our office, we are actually changing locations, but you can find the new address will be on the website. They can drop it off right to our office if they want to come visit the staff or, personally deliver the donations. We'd love photos and being able to post on social to promote who our supporters are. On the registry specifically, it's a lot of clothing items. Like I said, sometimes, I think we talked in the first episode, victims come to us sometimes with just what they're wearing. So it's a lot of clothing, especially for youth. The average age of our client is 14. So clothing, bedding, that way when they do get a bed or even if they're at the shelter, they can have their own bedding and sheets. Laundry detergent. We have a shelter, they can do laundry, but once they're in a home, it's harder. They might have to pay to do laundry. So we make sure just, household cleaning products, toilet paper. We joked during COVID there was no toilet paper. Like our clients need toilet paper too. So just, that kind of thing, very basic needs. And then there is gift cards. People can purchase them either through a Visa gift card or through Walmart, but that's all on the registry as well. And then art supplies. We really focus on self-care, so journals, colored pencils, stuff like that. And it might seem minimal, or very inexpensive, but it makes a huge difference to give a youth a journal or to give an adult a journal or a coloring book. So those items are on there as well for self-care.
Gotcha. Again, maybe it goes without question, but would you take donations like gently used items?
For clothing, yes. We're mindful. We, of course, prefer new, but we definitely will take shoes and clothing that's gently used. And then we have volunteers that will go through that and, coordinate it by size. We have bins at our shelter where we keep, all the way from baby clothing all the way up. I will say diapers. They're very expensive. I think you've had young children. I think we have a lot of clients that have children, either through their victimization or after. And it can be very hard for them to provide for them. So diapers, we constantly are going through diapers. So that's an option as well.
Okay. And so the shelters that you have, they're open, or I guess let me rephrase that. They're available for men, women, children?
So 18 and over, we're not licensed by the state of Texas to have youth in our shelter right now unless a parent is with them.
Okay.
We rely on our community partners, the Center for Children, the Child Crisis Center, to help house the youth if need be. A lot of times though, the youth are home. They have, families. So we do support the whole family unit. But no, our shelter, we can house men or women. And then if they have children with them, we can house, the family unit.
Gotcha.
And then if our shelter's either not like full or not available, we also can offer hotel stays for a certain period of time through grant funding, just to make sure that they have somewhere to go and somewhere to sleep.
Streets.
Yeah, so we do have that off, like a hotel voucher program as well.
Okay. You mentioned that you, your staff, and I know you yourself also are very involved in this in regards to giving the trainings, providing trainings. You were just mentioning you just came back into town from giving a training. Who and how can people reach out to you all to give or to have you all come in to their space to get a train or to receive training?
Yeah, no, great question. We have an email. It's outreach@pdncoh.org. So all you have to do is email that. You can give us some details of what you're looking for, and then within 24 hours, one of our team will reach out to ask you, size of the group, who the group is, because we try to tailor our programming and our trainings and education to our population. So we train all the way from 3rd grade up through college. We train parents, educators, nurses and doctors. We designed it, it's a human trafficking 101. It's really about awareness and prevention. It's an hour-long presentation that we can come in and do. But sometimes, Rotary clubs or different community-based agencies, they'll tell me, you have 15 minutes or 20 minutes.
Right.
So we'll do what we can. So we really try to customize it to whatever the community is looking for. And just being able to get in front of people and have that platform is, we have seen success in outcries, services, donations as a result. So we will make it work with whatever time frame you tell us you have.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, that's whether it's 10, 20, 50 people, that's another set of people that are now aware of the issue, right?
Yeah,
that have cleansed their misconceptions per se of
Yes.
what human trafficking is. So that's great. As an educator and as a social worker, I think that's a great thing. I mean, we always talk about being out in the community and educating, right? It's a powerful tool, education.
Yeah.
And the more that we educate people, the more that I feel we can take that fear off of what the topic is, the fear of, well, just that. I always feel that people are afraid of what they don't understand, right? And so the more aware we make them of these things, and the more that, I don't want to say normalize the verbiage and normalize, but right, the more that you can talk about it, the more that it's easy for people to have these conversations and eventually potentially even reach out.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Either to report something, or even if they themselves have gone through something, that they could potentially receive services from you all.
Yeah, absolutely. We make presentations in the schools. A lot of times we have youth make an outcry after. I think I previously mentioned sometimes people don't identify as the victim. They don't realize that what's happening to them or what they're going through is a crime or is something they can get help for. So the more we can educate, the better. And same with, we've trained Texas Tech psychiatry department, and the psychiatrists have been able to identify some of their clients afterwards, just from the signs that they learned in the training. So the more that we can educate, the better.
Definitely, awareness can go a long way.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so with that, I would like to really thank you again for doing 2 episodes, right? And hopefully at the end of the day, you all watching have a better understanding of this. And please give Nicole and her team a call, send them an email. Again, that's outreach@pdncoh.org. If you would like to have their team come out and train your staff, maybe even community members, right? A neighborhood could get together, right? Community center, a church, and again, help spread the word on the signs and just become aware. And again, it's fine to have these conversations. At the end of the day, we're learning about these issues that are relevant to our community. The more we go silent about these, the more that we're really helping the perpetrator, the more that we're helping the people that are committing these atrocities, these crimes. So again, I would like to end with not only a huge thank you for your time and for bringing us your expertise in the area, and I would like to remind everybody at home also to check any of the previous episodes of not only this show, but the rest of the lineup that EPCC TV has to offer, simply by going to the EPCC TV YouTube channel. Again, thank you very much for joining us. And remember, it's fine to have these difficult conversations. At the end of the day, just keep it social.